Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. I'm glad you're here. I'll be interviewing CEOs who have successfully scaled their B2B sales organization. In each episode, I'll start by uncovering the sales background of each CEO, dig into the strategies they use to build their sales organization, and wrap it up with what the future holds. We'll cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of scaling a sales organization. I'm your host, Alice Heiman. Today, selling has gotten more complex than ever. Companies who are out there with a business-to-business sale, their sellers are facing things that they've never seen before. They are looking at 8 or 12 buyers that have to come to consensus in order to buy something. And they, with their teams, have to navigate understanding all the problems that each of these buyers is having and how they see the reality, and really get to know each one of them. And so we need to be able to provide solutions to make it easier for salespeople and their teams to get to know all of the people on the buying team. And that's why I'm excited now to have Usman on the show with me, because he is the founder of XIQ, a company that simplifies things for the sellers in this very complex environment that we're in today. So welcome, Usman.
Thank you, Alice. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, absolutely. So just tell us a tiny bit more about what XIQ does, and then we're going to jump back to when you founded the company.
Absolutely, with pleasure. So XIQ is a AI-powered sales and marketing platform. What we've done is we've tried to simplify the complex sales cycle by by adding AI to help process the enormous amount of data that's present within the sales process today.
Yeah.
And we've combined it with psychology because it helps you understand, as you said, the multiple decision makers that are
Yeah.
involved. And today we have a platform called XIQ, Multiply Your Intelligence, that helps you do sales and marketing in one SaaS based platform that's easy to use, it's very intuitive, and is being applied by a lot of companies to simplify their complex sales process.
Wow. So think back to what, about 4 years ago, when you decided to start this company. You weren't in sales. What were you doing, and how did you get this idea? Why did it become so important that you had to start a business around it?
Absolutely. So I was with SAP, the world's largest B2B software company. And my role, I played many different roles with them. I was originally hired to do value engineering, which is the ability to identify and build a business use case that justifies investment in software and technology. I also did product management. And as a result of product management, I did a lot of sales enablement and got to work with some of the best salespeople in the world. What I realized, Alice, was that only about 3 to 5% of the salespeople were really, really the top creed in their business, and the motivation was that how do you take the wisdom of these top 3% and how do you make it available to the rest of the organization to be able to upskill and upgrade their capabilities? And that's what motivated me, is like, how can we democratize this information, this wisdom, this value that the top sales guys are bringing to their sales channels? How can we bring that across? And that's what motivated me to form XIQ.
Wow. All right. So you decided to start, and did you have a co-founder, or did you just get out there on your own? What happened?
I was super motivated. I could not wait for a co founder. I did it on my own. I went and found some initial seed investment. Found We literally started with about 5 developers and myself, and
Wow.
we've been growing since then. So yeah, pretty much a vision I had that I had to kind of get out there and start building on my own.
All right, so you've got these developers working, and you're thinking, I got to go sell this, right? Because these investors want to see that we can actually sell this idea. They believed in it, but will anybody buy it? So you didn't have any sales experience. How did you step out into the world of selling and get your first customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, fortunately for me, when I was at SAP, I was able to form a great network of highly valuable and engaged and influential people. So I went to them and I highlighted the problems that existed in complex sales, right? Long sales cycles, multiple decision makers. How do you crack the code into getting into these organizations? And I reached out to them, and two things happened. One, I got my first clients out of that, and two, I started to get a lot of valuable feedback in terms of what was really required,
Yeah.
and we started shaping our product and our go to market strategy literally around what we were hearing from the market.
So you hit on a really important point that I try to drive home to all CEOs, whether they're in startup phase or whether they're in mature 10, 20, 30-year-old companies, right? You built that network before you needed it. And I think in sales, doesn't matter who you are, if you're doing the selling, you need that network. But when you reach out to them in the beginning or anytime, you're not reaching out to sell something to them. You're reaching out to have conversations. You're reaching out to understand their view of a problem that you're trying to solve and to gather information and get ideas. And that's exactly what you did. And because you brought them such good ideas, they wanted to buy it. Of course, they're like, well, when will it be ready? Right.
Yes,
So you
absolutely.
got some of your first customers from that. And I love that you also said you started shaping the product differently based on this conversation. So tell us a little bit more about those first customers and how you shaped the product.
Yeah, I remember that my first call was on a Friday afternoon, and it was with the chief innovation officer of now one of the top 10 management consulting firms out there. And during that conversation, I explained to him, he was aware of what was going on. He had also seen the challenges that his salespeople had forced. It was not a cold call, it was somebody I knew.
Yeah.
There was a trust level that was established, there was familiarity. And so for them to listen to what I was saying was a lot easier, let's say, a lot fewer barriers in getting through to them. And as we started talking and I started explaining my vision, which was to be able to, tap into this enormous amount of data that's out there, that's
Yeah.
relevant to sales, but humanly it's not possible to analyze and bring in, it started ringing bells, right? And they said immediately, literally on Friday afternoon, Alice, I made a call. That person was flying in from New York to the Silicon Valley on Monday. We had breakfast on Monday.
Wow.
30 minutes into that breakfast, my first deal was closed, right?
Wow.
And then they turned me on to the larger organization. They made me an entrepreneur in residence within their company, even though I was an outsider. And that gave me access to really frontline salespeople and what were their challenges. And we started hearing from them, how should we shape the product? Hey, you guys are doing this. What about this? Can you add this? And there's like light bulbs,
Yes.
lighting up all over the place.
Oh my
And
gosh, I love that. I love that because here you are in real time. You have this idea, but you get all of this great input to shape the idea and continue making it better and better. I mean, I'm just loving this. All right, so you had one sale, and then you got to be an entrepreneur in residence, which is fantastic. How did you get your next customers? How did you continue to grow sales? Did you go out and hire a sales team? What did you do?
not as yet. I mean, we took me about a year or so to get to my first salesperson. We were literally, as I told you, 5 people. So building
Yeah.
the product, hiring a product manager. We have at SAP and been trained to be customer focused, right? It's
Yes.
very customer centric, customer focused organization. So it was very clear to me that listening to what the customers had to say, addressing their key pain points, and being able
Hmm.
to bring novelty, innovation to how traditional problems were solved was super, super important. So that's how we did. I reached out to this person. Gained more confidence in talking and reaching out to other people within my network. And soon, within a couple of months, we had 4 or 5 customers, and we had 4 or 5 companies giving us really, really great input in terms of what was happening. What also happened is, Alice, that we started to see that there were similar pain points and requirements across
Mm.
different companies. So it was very easy for us to start prioritizing what needed to be done next. And that's how we grew, really hands-on involved, talking to people, talking to end users, bringing the product team along with me. The one client success person we had, bringing them into the conversations so that we could
Yeah.
start really giving them the complete experience, right?
Yeah, truly a founder led sales approach, which works so well in the beginning. But, it's a mystery to me why CEOs ever let go of that because they have so much power to gather an audience and intrigue them, make them curious, have conversations with them. But somehow when CEOs, start to think, okay, we need more sales, they start to grow a sales team, a sales organization. Maybe it's direct, maybe it's indirect. They start doing other kinds of things to get that sales revenue, and they get further and further away from the sale. And what we know it's is that founder-led sales is so powerful. And I really believe it should continue forever. The CEOs have such an important role in sales, in being a chief lead generator, being out there on the internet, being on podcasts like you are, writing articles or having someone write articles for them by interviewing them and getting their thought leadership on their topic out there. And yet, so many times I see them drop that after they get to be 10, or even after 5 years, but definitely after 10 years, they're just not doing it anymore. So I guess I'm saying this for all the CEOs listening. This is so important and it works. It works better than having SDRs dialing for dollars trying to get appointments because CEOs, founders can break down barriers because they're just going to have conversations. They're not going to try to sell anything. So it's really a beautiful thing that you're doing that and continue to do that. So kind of fast forward us to where you are today. You're about 4 years in. You've got quite a few customers now, and things are looking a little different. The product is solid, it's out there, it's working, and you've got it in many different industries. So tell us about what's happening now with sales and how you continue to grow.
Yeah, so the philosophy, which is what you talk about, right? The CEO mentality and the philosophy that has to transcend into the sales organization is super important to us.
Yeah.
And really understand, that customer focus is not just
Yeah.
about being polite and nice and responsive to customers, but it's really being able to understand, put yourselves into the shoes of what the client is actually experiencing, what the challenges they're experiencing. So that's what we look for as we hire new salespeople. And believe me, Alice, that's a challenge in itself. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit, but being able to hire the right mindset, right? It's not about selling. Sales is not about selling anymore. It's about educating, it's about
Right.
having the conversation. And through that conversation, you place the ideas and you receive the ideas. And it's that
Mhm.
interaction of ideas that leads to the transformative understanding that
Yeah.
your clients need to have about how your solution can can really alter and change the path and direction of their company. So what
Right.
we are a sales and marketing platform, and sales and marketing is a very, very important piece of every company. If you don't have sales and marketing, you don't really have a company. But people are anchored, tied down into the traditional point sales solutions that have been
Yes.
put out there, right? Times have changed. We're
Right.
moving in a very agile environment and living in a very agile environment, which is extremely diverse. So, where we are in our growth right now is trying to concentrate on being able to bring that customer centric focus, trying to be able to find the people that are going to be more interested in educating and
Yeah.
having that value added conversation with clients versus just going and being transactional. Transactional sales in B2B do not work, right? It's relationships, it's building those relationships, it's adding value, it's educating your clients. And as a result of educating your client, earning the trust of the different people that you have to convince. So that's
Right.
where we are. We're growing, we're hiring salespeople, and and trying to infuse the philosophy of education versus selling into into their mindset.
I love your focus on the buyer. I always say sales is not about sellers. Sales is about the way the buyers want to buy. And
Correct.
you have that extreme customer focus, and your product brings that extreme customer focus. I think that we're making sales harder than it has to be because we're asking salespeople to do activities that simply don't work. Now, they might have worked 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Maybe they even worked 3 years ago, but they're not working anymore. So we have to help our salespeople understand, hey, this is not transactional. We don't want a customer for now. We want a customer for
Right.
life.
Yeah.
We have to understand that we're selling to other humans. We're human, they're human. They wake up every day like we do with a myriad of things on their mind, not just work. And then when they go to work, they have many things on their mind besides this purchase that they're trying to make. And we have to make it easier for the sellers to buy from us, and knowing them better helps us do that. But like you said, it's hard because there's so much information out there. How could we possibly gather it all? This is what I love about XIQ, and why I was so excited when I met you and I wanted you to tell your story, because my whole world is the complex sale and trying to make it easier. And I'm always telling salespeople, go out there and find good information about the company, about the industry, about the people, and be able to use that to have good insights and bring advice forward and help these large buying groups come to consensus. But salespeople don't have time to do the amount of research that's needed today. And so I love that XIQ puts that all together for them and really just dishes it right up. So before I go into an appointment with anyone, I can just go on my platform and get all the information that I need. And the platform's also been helping me all along to interact with the people that I'm selling to. So I do love that. So what do you think the future looks like? You've got this great tool that the people with a complex sale absolutely need. You're still doing founder-led sales, which I love, but you've added a sales team to that, which is phenomenal. Actually, I'm going to ask you two questions. The first one is, as you continue to grow this sales organization that can help with the selling, what is your role now today? I mean, earlier on, you were doing everything, but now your role has changed because the company's matured. So, what's your role as the CEO in sales today? And then we'll talk about after that kind of what's the future hold for your organization to get more sales.
Yeah. I think you said something which was super important, which is that we make life very difficult for sellers. And if you think about it, on average, Gartner says there's about 12 to 16
Yeah.
solutions that a seller has to navigate today to actually close the transaction. And think about it, you've got something that you need to do prospecting it, you need to do CRM, you need to do marketing automation, you need to do client success. All of
Yeah.
them have different platforms that you have to use. I believe it's like 10 to 15% of the time is only spent on sales related activities,
Right.
whereas the rest of the time is being spent on learning, training, mastering these solutions that you have to have. So we take sales guys and we put them into becoming tool jockeys, right? And that tool jockey just takes a lot of time. And people think this
Yeah.
is really valuable because I've got visibility into what my sales team is doing. Incorrect. That is not correct. You've got
No.
to give them more time. And to your point, making it easier for them to be able to research, because research is so important. Two things, right? Knowing the person, as you said, it's about people selling to people and people
Right.
buying from people they trust, right? So, how do we attain that in a scalable manner, right? So, you've got to be equipped with the right information. That is very, very important
Yeah.
because that is the currency of earning trust. If I share with you, even like a gossip, hey, Alice, did you know that there was going to be a new CEO or a new CMO? That's valuable information to you. You will start, and if it's correct, you will start earning I will start earning your trust. You will start listening to what I have to say. And this information is void in the environment we are experiencing today, because
Yeah.
our sales guys are learning about how to use different tools. They're not
Yeah.
focused on understanding the person.
Well,
So
we've tooled them to death.
yeah,
I
we've
mean, you can't even learn all the tools. And what I notice is that salespeople are using like 1/10 of the power of each of the tools that they have, and they don't even know these tools can relieve them of some activity, and reduce time on things, that could allow them to have more time for selling. All the research that we're seeing is that, like you said, salespeople are only spending about 20% of their time with actual customers. 80% of their job is doing so many other things. And if we could get them from like 20% to 50%, oh my gosh, your sales would go up surely, exponentially. What if you could get them to 70% of their time talking to people who can buy from them, having conversations, bringing insights, moving deals forward? That would be amazing. But yet, we bog salespeople down with so many administrative and clerical things and tools that they have to learn, and that really get in their way now, I think, in some ways. I mean, some of these tools are fantastic and they are powerful, but they're weighing salespeople down, and the salespeople don't really know how to use them. So I'm in agreement with you on that one.
Yeah. And my role, the way it has changed is that previously I was doing everything in the sales process.
Right.
Now I have sellers doing that work. But for me, I have to be able to infuse in them the thinking that you have to prepare. And to your
Yes.
point, like 50% of the time, if they were to be able to sell, or 70% of the time, it is an absolute requirement today.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're not selling to one person. As you said, it's gone up to about 12 people that we're selling. That means we have to do 12 times more research on them.
Right.
We have to build 12 relationships. We have to chaperone or guide or work with 12 different individuals through the sales process. So my role today is to ensure that I'm equipping my team. We, by the way, drink our own champagne. Everybody uses XIQ, and one of the core purposes of XIQ is to help you do less research, spend less time on doing research, more time on selling. So we provide the insights, we provide the sales trigger, and very important, we help you understand the behavioral mindset. And every seller in my organization, in my company, is required to look up the personality insights on an individual. They're required to do research. And with our tool set, they can do it extremely fast. My role today is more of the executive seller, right? I come in to paint the vision. Where is the future? What can you do? The art of the possibility. And where can this lead you to? Remember, my value engineering background is allowing me to kind of help them transition and see beyond, over the horizon. What could this potentially do? And that's really, really important. We get bogged down in what's today and what we have been used to doing before. We know only what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. And it's really what we don't know is what's happening today. AI is extremely transformative, and AI is extremely misunderstood on the one hand, and it is not being used. It's not being used in a pragmatic way in sales and marketing. It's being used to automate some of the old traditional processes. You can't do that. You've got to think of new ways of using AI to help you. The process of selling, the human interaction has not changed. It's how and the time span within which you can sell, that's really changed. And that's where our platform comes in, and that's where my role is transitioning, is to help the salespeople, my salespeople, understand how they can shrink that time, how they can get better value, how they can become more customer focused. And I come in to help the customer see beyond and over the horizon with what our technology can do for them.
Yeah, I love that you're still opening doors and coming in there with a bigger picture and the vision, not selling anything. And I really believe that our company leaders, not just CEOs, other company leaders can do the same thing. They can open the doors and bring in that bigger vision and the value. And then the salespeople can do their job because now they have an interested person or group of people that they can carry on with. So you've opened the door, they understand, and the customer understands, and then the salesperson can move that deal forward and close it. So I always say, sales leaders, CEOs, you shouldn't be out there closing deals for your salespeople. They should do that themselves. They should know how to do that, or you train them to do that. You should be opening the doors and guiding and helping when the insight that only you have needs to be provided. And so I love that you're doing that. So how many salespeople do you have right now? And like, how do people find you, right? What's the buyer's journey? How do they find you and then end up talking to a salesperson? And, what does that look like? What does that whole sales organization look like?
Yeah, so we're still relatively small. We have less than 10 salespeople in the organization. We're looking to hire more. So if this channel reaches out to any of those, we're looking to hire. Um, Sorry, what was the second part of the question, which
Yeah,
is
just what does it look like now, and what's the buyer journey? How are they
right,
finding you?
how they're finding us? So I opened the doors. I set the first stages. Two things we're doing. We're going to still doing a lot of networking and finding individuals that can help us meet a hot lead. An introduction is so much more valuable than a cold call. So that's number one. Just prior to your call, I was on two calls this morning where partners made really, really hot, warm introductions into their networks. And that allows us to have that more mature, value added discussion in the very first go. How
Yeah,
are they
pause there for a second because I want everybody to hear this. And I probably say this on almost every podcast that I do. Wouldn't you rather have an introduction than to have to send cold messages out? I mean, come on, people, right? So work hard at using your network well to get the introductions you need. That means it's give and take. You need to make introductions too, right? But work hard to earn that right to ask for an introduction and get an introduction so that we can make sales easier and we don't have to do so much cold outreach. And the buyers don't like the cold outreach and we don't like the cold outreach as sellers either. So these introductions are so important. So I love that you're building that influencer network that can help you get those introductions.
Absolutely. I get cold call. I got a cold call yesterday. They said, I need just 1 minute of your time. I said, okay, you've got 1 minute. They said, the first sentence was they repeated what I did. I said, yes, I know that's what I do. And two, how do you go about getting leads? And I said, well, sorry, I'm going to have to hang up because you didn't do your research. You don't know what we do.
Right.
That's our business.
Yeah.
And you didn't spend the
Yeah.
time to find that out. So that's your cold call right there.
Right.
And it ends up that way. Whereas a warm introduction, the prospect already knows what they're getting themselves into, why they're talking. It's been introduced by an
Yes.
influencer and somebody they trust,
Yeah,
somebody
they've
who
transferred the credibility. They've said, I trust this person. I'm
exactly.
asking you to trust this person because, and they give you entree, right? And then it's up to you whether you lose that credibility right away or keep it. If you do with that, typical sales call, just not intriguing, not talking about the right things, not asking a question to get started that is something other than buy my product, right? Then you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah,
So you definitely, once you get that introduction, you got to use it well, right? And it's got to be all about the other person, not about you. And again, that's where the research comes in that XIQ can provide, because I know what to talk to this person about because of the research, but also because the person who introduced me set me up and told me what they were interested in.
absolutely. And winning trust is super important. And that's what that warm introduction does actually is
Hmm.
that, as you said, it's the transfer of credibility across. And it's that first meeting, and it's the second meeting, which is again the first meeting, and the third meeting. This is what happens in sales a lot. Salespeople do a lot of first meetings 3 4 times, and that's when they start losing. And this is why our tool set is important, because again, at multiple dimensions, it helps you understand the client. It helps you understand the client at the individual, at the personal level. What's their personal motivation? What's their behavior? What's going to drive them? It helps them understand them at the company level. What are the wheels that are in motion within the company? And it helps them understand that company within the context of their competitors and within the industry. All these dimensions in B2B complex sales, again, that's the area that we operate in. These are essential must-haves for B2B sellers, right? And it is so difficult if you think about it, if you don't have one single place to go to. This information is fragmented, distributed, and so much data that is all over, humanly impossible to assess, analyze, and action on, right? So this is where our tool comes in, and it fits into helping that salesperson avoid having that first meeting. And how many meetings have you had where they come in, talk about the weather, they make this small talk, and you're like,
Yeah.
my team is super busy. It's super important. I can't be having this. I know what the weather is like outside. I know what happened in this sports team last night. You're not going to win any brownie points by doing that. But if you tell me, hey, this is how I can help you, this is what are your problems, if you can identify those pain points quickly and then keep moving the ball forward, I will have a much greater chance of succeeding in convincing them. And these
Right,
first
right,
meetings
right.
multiple times are very paradoxical, and they're very frequent, unfortunately, as well.
Okay, so you are opening the door by getting introductions, being in there on the first conversation. You've got several salespeople now that come in and work with the buying team after you've made that introduction that's been made for you by someone who knows you and trusts you. Um, what is coming next? So, are you building more of a sales team? Are you looking? Maybe you're going to hire a sales leader next. Maybe you want to do more of an internet approach with more SEO. What's coming next to grow your sales?
Yeah. So for us, we are going to build a small sales organization. I think it's good to have that close in, but we are increasingly leaning towards partnerships and channels.
Um,
This is, again, to your point, right? People that are already selling into accounts that are established there, if we can convince them and we can highlight the value, it's a lot easier for us to be introduced into that account because A, we have a framework, or let me flip it around. A, the customer has a reason, or the prospect has a reason as to why they're talking to us, number one. And two, we have a framework as to why we're talking to. We're not having that consultative selling approach anymore where like, oh, so hit and trial, what's going on, asking questions. That is so yesterday, right? That we come in and we start asking them all these questions and then start trying to diagnose. It's so much easier, it's so much more important that we go in knowing what the reality on the ground is and come in as value added partners to help them advance their causes, right?
right.
So
It's more of a collaboration than a consultation because I don't know everything, but I do need to bring you important insights that can help us collaborate and help us move forward together.
yeah, and then product led selling is very, very important to us. If we don't have a quality product, it's useless. However many introductions are made to us, it will fall flat. And to your point earlier
Yeah.
about customer lifetime, customers for lifetime, you don't build that if you have a one hit product. So
No.
you simply can't, right? So us getting involved with customers, so helping them solve their business problems is super important, and our partners are going to play a big role in that. And now the referral network, right? People that are transitioning 4 years in, people that were working in company A are now working in company B or company C now. And fortunately for us, because we have a very unique, innovative, and intuitive product, they are taking our product from company A to B to C. And this is starting to happen. So we want to, again, take that formula of succeeding, scale it through a partner network. And a partner network that is in the similar space, again, the space being complex B2B selling. This is very important, right? And I want to say something on that, right? Because I don't know how many, I know you talk a lot about complex sales, but what is a complex sale, right? Let me just kind of highlight that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what has XIQ done for that complex? So it's long. It takes a long time to do a high ticket dollar value sale. And so in that time period, a lot of people change, a lot of events occur that change the situation. So news and sales triggers and market research becomes a very important factor. And Alice, what I say is I've kind of put a formula together that the speed with which you can respond to events that are happening in the market is equally proportional to the trusted relationship that you will build. So let me repeat that again, just so that people can understand. The speed with which you respond to what's happening is going to be proportional to the relationship you're going to build. Because if I am the first person to take that news out to you, you're going to start relying on me coming back with that news. So that long sales cycle is very important. And XIQ again helps you get the most current news and information. Secondly, too much data, right? There's so much data. You've got LinkedIn, you've got Twitter, you've got Instagram, you've got corporate website, you've got investor relations, you've got annual reports. You've got too much data out there, right? You've got the financial industry kind of the Wall Street talking about companies. How do you analyze it? It's humanly not possible. So AI comes in to play that role. And then it's about people and growing number of people. It's humanly again becoming a little bit more difficult to assess the person that's on the other side, and us using behavioral psychology, proven behavioral psychology, to help sellers frame a discussion in a proper manner, in a proper framework, is important. And then lastly, I would say we are mobile, we're always on, and we're always on the move as well. So XIQ again, we took this very seriously, that we would provide a very familiar interface. So the user experience has to be very intuitive, and it has to be mobile first. So
Right, right.
these are the four things that I would say are very important in defining a complex sale. And this is how we break it down in terms of our platform helping them.
Well, and I think that the long sales cycle is because there are so many people involved. It's because there are technical complexities. It's because there are a lot of decisions to be made on the seller side as well as on the buyer side, and the sellers have to gather their whole team and bring them to consensus to make the deal happen too. So there are lots of things going on, and then in the middle of your deal, priorities shift at your buyer's company and they have to focus on something else. So all these things make it complex, and your tool makes it easier to navigate those complexities, which I just love. So last words before we part ways today. If you were to say to the other CEOs out there that are listening, just to maybe kind of reiterate how important it is for the CEO to maintain a role in sales, even as the company matures, what words of wisdom would you share with the other CEOs listening?
Yeah, so I know we both know Dr. Howard Dover, and he posted, and I know you liked it as well, about that Black Swan article. Things have irreversibly changed in selling, right? And every CEO needs to realize that, right? There's got to be a lot of agility. You have to move at the speed of business, and business is moving faster and faster. The fragmented tech stack made up of multiple point solutions that are clumsy at best at talking to each other, that suck up a lot of your dollars that should be spent on selling, on doing marketing, on doing events, are now being diverted towards getting technology talking to each other. So we've got to kind of reassess the tech stack in terms of, we need a bullet train. Are the tracks that are on the ground today, is the infrastructure laid out there today allowing us to get on that bullet train? And I would say the answer is no. Secondly, I would say that AI plays a big role, right? And CEOs, as visionaries, as the leaders of their company, need to step in to be able to understand what is pragmatic and what is not pragmatic. The best judge of how the sale works is the CEO, right? If especially if you're a CEO like me, who's a founder CEO, founder salesperson, still the leading salesperson, you've got to be able to assess that not all solutions are equal, not all AI is equal. A lot of trendy buzzwords are out there, but it goes back to what is the essence of sales? It's about people, and what can help you break into those people. So be pragmatic about, and simplify your stack. Again, that 20% of selling versus 80% of admin work and research work, you've got to change that equation. So my advice to fellow CEOs is, think about agility, think about reassessing your investments in your tech stack. Are they really paying off? Are they really helping you get to the agility? Are you able to form the relationships? And are these pragmatic, complete solutions? Point solutions, folks, is not going to be the way forward. You've got to start thinking in terms of a much more streamlined way of building relationships and conducting your sales operations.
100%. And even if your company is 10 or 20 years old and you've been doing this a long time, you've been relying on your sales leaders and they are stuck in the past. They're stuck with outdated information, outdated methods. You've got to urge them to come up to the future with us and start understanding what truly is working and what isn't. And it is your job as CEO to orchestrate that and to orchestrate all of that interaction that needs to happen today in your company to really meet the buyer where they are, to really focus on that buyer journey and the intersections that your company has, all the different departments that intersect at those different places. It's really important now as CEO to play that role and really examine everything that's going on, and don't let them live in the past. Don't let them continue to do things that are not working. So thank you very much, Usman, for coming on the show today. I so appreciate it. And I look forward to following your company and seeing all the great things you're doing, because I am a big fan, and I really love what XIQ is doing for the complex sale.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much, Alice. Appreciate it. Love your podcasts as well, and great work you're doing with CEOs. And thank you very much for having me on your podcast today.
Thanks for tuning in to Sales Talk for CEOs. You can find me at aliceheiman.com. Be sure and connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that you heard the show. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, write a review, and share the show with another CEO.